Okay, so thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here this evening with you. Uh, I'm going to say something about what is known as Dzogchen, or the Great Completion. It could also be called the Great Inclusion or the Great Perfection. If you imagine a circle which is completed, it has no gaps in it. Each moment along the surface of the circle is the same as the other points. There is no fundamental division between how it appears. So this is a symbol or a way of representing the undivided nature of the world that we actually inhabit. Dzogchen is part of Buddhism, but its orientation is slightly different from mainstream Buddhism. Most religions start from the idea that there is something wrong with us, that we're bad people or fallen people or going in the wrong way. And so we should start by getting a little bit worried that we're in the wrong place, and in fact, we're the wrong kind of person, and then we should try very hard. Now, death is coming, and we're in a mess. You could get liberated, but you might not. So this is a kind of invitation to anxiety. The view or the way of starting in Dzogchen is very different. Rather than starting with a story about yourself, some cultural or religious interpretation, we start with an invitation to be present with ourselves as we are. And the teachings are all pointing towards the way in which we become contrived or artificial in how we manifest. And that this artificiality arises because we try too hard. Our very effort to improve our lives leads to the development of more problems. So the focus of Dzogchen is to encourage us to not think of where we might be going, or that life is a path or a journey and that there is somewhere better over the hills. We can all imagine that life is wonderful in the next valley. The cows are twice the size and the women are so beautiful. So you spend your life climbing up the mountain, and just when you're ready to get into that valley, you die. And how could we ever get to that valley? Because it is a mental construction, it's an idea. The idea hovers in front of us the way the horizon does. No matter how far or how fast you travel, you never actually reach the horizon. So from the point of view of Dzogchen, the key thing is to start to settle into yourself. We each have a body. The body, we know about walking and talking and lifting things and putting them down. We tend to take our embodiment for granted unless we become sick. And we use the body as a tool for our ego self, organizing ourselves to try to get more of what we like and less of what we don't like. So we see our body as a vehicle for doing something, for making something, for going somewhere. But in the practice, we simply sit very quietly, allowing our skeleton to carry our weight so that the muscles can relax and the breath can move easily at the diaphragm. So we're not asking the body to do anything. That is to say, we're not mobilizing the energy of the body for any task. And because we don't have an intention or an agenda, there is some space for the body to show itself. And we start to feel sensations, pulsations in the muscles, something pleasurable, something a little bit unpleasant. But to say pleasant or unpleasant is already an interpretation. So if we don't take what is arising as our experience as a raw material to do something with, if we just leave it as it is, then it becomes clear that this thing that we call my body is in fact a ceaseless flow of experience. The same with our speech. When people are talking, like we are just now, our attention is to what are they saying? What meaning can I get from the words? Sound is coming through the air as vibration. So it seems clear for us that what we hear is meaningful. But the sound is not a fully formed meaning, it's a potential. Because when Tamás is talking, I don't know what he's saying. If what he was saying was directly meaningful, I would understand it. If you are able to understand what he says, it's because you are able to interpret these sounds in terms of the knowledge base that you have of the meaning of words and phrases in Hungarian. That is to say, your mind is moving with the sound that is coming in your ear to create this sense of meaning. It is not that the meaning arrives fully formed, but you are a co-creator of the meaning according to your history, your mood, and so on. Without your participation, the meaning would not be there. In this way, we can start to see that the world we live in is dynamic. It is not already formed. It comes into being according to our capacity and skill in participation. And the more we are aware of that, if my mind doesn't move in the process of interpreting what I hear, then the sound thins out until it becomes simply sound. And this is the same with our other senses. What we see around us seems to be just there. You see some computer screen or your mobile phone, you see the color of the walls in the room you're in, and so on. These things are there. They are there for you. They are not there for a cat or a duck or a dog. That is to say, the mobile phone exists as an entity for people who have the concept of mobile phone. If you have a cat and it wanders in and it looks down to see what you're looking at, it doesn't see anything interesting, nothing to eat, so it walks on. So in that way, we can start to see, oh, the mobile phone is not something existing in itself. It is revealed through our developed, cultured, educated, and artificial mode of interpretation. So when we start to look in this way, we see that the whole world becomes a multitude of sites which support our projections of interpretation, our assumptions that something is already there. So this might sound a bit crazy. You walk down the street, you see a parked car. It seems so obvious that that is a car. But 150 years ago, we didn't have cars. If somebody had seen one of these modern cars, they wouldn't know what it was. If my father saw a mobile phone, he died many years ago, he wouldn't know what it was. He wouldn't know anything about it. He had been a soldier in the war, so he knew about machine guns. I don't know anything about machine guns. I never touched a gun. So in that way, we can see that how we are, our interests, our moods, our educations become pathways of participation. The central point here is that the world is revealed through participation. It's not something out there that is already existing, nor are we just here in ourselves. We manifest according to situations. So this brings us back to the present moment. What is revealed is the revelation of the moment. This is what is direct. This is what is arising now. So when we sit in the meditation practice with our minds, we just relax and open and become a reflective awareness which shows whatever is occurring. We're not striving to make sense of what is going on. because that is always a method of cooking. We add our own style of cooking, and so the ingredients of the potential of the moment starts to taste like our familiar dish. So what do things look like? What do they sound like? What do they taste like? When you stop cooking, instead of us going out and constructing the patterning of our experience, we relax and receive the immediate freshness of the fullness of this moment. And then we see that there is an intrinsic completion to each moment. So this is the instruction that comes from the first teacher who brought the Dzogchen tradition into this world, Garab Dorji. He said, you have to meet yourself or be introduced to yourself. Now, you don't have to be introduced to something you know. When we know something, we're able to put the label onto something or the value onto it. When we meet someone for the first time, we don't have so many expectations, and so there's the possibility of a fresh encounter. But the more times you meet the person, you build up memories and expectations, and you start to view them through this veil or screen of your knowledge and assumptions. There's a kind of empowerment through feeling that you know them because you can predict what's going to happen. You know the sort of things they're going to talk about. So in a sense, you can leap ahead of the moment and arrive even before they do because you know them. We can see that in our social world at the moment, this tendency is very strong. With the anxieties around climate change, if the winter is very wet or very cold, then it becomes a prediction, oh my God, everything is changing. If it continues like this, how is it going to be for my children? Then our mind is busy moving all kind of ideas around to create these fantasy futures. Now, all these thoughts may be quite interesting and on one level quite useful, but they fill us up. So when we follow Garab Dorji's encouragement to find ourselves, to meet ourselves, we find a busy marketplace full of thoughts and feelings and sensations. All of this stuff that is arising for me, well, this is me, this is how I am. A thought arises about what you have to do tomorrow. Yeah, that's my thought because that's what I'm going to do tomorrow. So this formation which is arising in the field of your experience is both useful because it allows you to maintain the sense of the continuity of your ego self, but it's like an opacity, a veil, so I can't see beyond the thoughts, feelings, sensations, memories which are arising. So in the teachings of Dzogchen, it says the mind is open and empty from the very beginning. Then we might think, oh, well, life must be different in Tibet because my mind's not like that. My mind has been full from the very beginning and very busy. And in fact, I have been rewarded for having a full mind. When you're at school and the teacher asks a question, you have to put your hand up and say, I have the answer, being very quick to respond, so that your mind should relate to the world the way a professional tennis player relates to the ball. You should be looking out through your senses and try to see what's coming and then position yourself to some advantage in relation to that. All that this is arising and filling the space of the mind is movement. The thoughts arise and pass. The feelings arise and pass. When I feel it's my thought, it seems to give me something to hold on to. And I can jump from one thought to another, the way you might in the country cross a river where there are stepping stones. So you have to keep moving, otherwise you can fall in the river. But if we stop a little and we see, oh, the thoughts are moving, And it's because I identify with the thought, I seem to find myself in the thought, that I think I seem to be moving. I am the thinker. Well, but you didn't know what thought was coming. If you had a shop selling bread, you would know when the bread was going to be delivered. And if you had a cheese shop, you would know where the cheese was coming from and when the delivery would be. So what kind of a shop are you? I'm a thought shop, but I don't know when the next delivery is coming. I don't know if it's going to be sweet or salty. Something will happen. Yes, I'm in charge. It's my mind, but somehow I don't quite know how it's going to be. So maybe my assumption that I am the thinker of the thought is false. Maybe the thought is thinking me. I, me, myself is a series of thought identifications or formations, ceaselessly changing. This patterning of experience is illuminated by what? In the tradition, we see this is the light of awareness. Awareness is the brightness of the mind, or the lucidity which illuminates these patterns of formation coming and going. The patterns of experience are coming and going, but awareness itself is steady and clear and bright. So, what is this awareness? When Gallup Dorji says you have to meet yourself, he is encouraging us not to be deflected and distracted by the momentary contents of the mind, but to quietly and clearly stay present with the movement, not merging into the movement, not holding ourselves separate and apart from the movement, but just allowing whatever is coming to come. So when we sit in the practice, there's some sensation arising, there are noises outside, there are fluctuations in with the light, if it's the daytime and the wind is blowing. There is movement, ceaseless movement. And yet there is also this unchanging stillness of the illuminating awareness. So in the traditional example, you say it's like a mirror. The mirror itself has a lucidity, it has a capacity for clarity, for revealing. When you look in the mirror, you see images of many different kinds. The mirror has no fixed image. In that way, it's not like a painting. So many different images arise in the mirror. Each of them belongs to the mirror or is the potential of the mirror. And yet, none of these images tells us the true face of the mirror. The mirror itself has, you could say, no face or an empty face, or the clarity of the face of the mirror allows hospitality to whatever reflection arises. Since you got up this morning, so many experiences happened for you. Thousands and thousands of moments of experience arising and passing through, coming and going. While that particular moment was there, it is as if it was you. An experience arose and you thought, I'm thirsty. It's undeniable, I'm thirsty. Thirst is defining me in this moment. And then you have a drink and the thirst dissolves, it vanishes. So a seeming truth, an undeniable truth about myself is not really resting on a strong essential basis. The one reliable aspect of myself is my capacity to have experience. So in that sense, just as the stage in a theater can be used for many different kinds of plays, or for an orchestra, or for a rock band, the stage is facilitating a display, And the fact that the stage is open and empty is the main aspect of how it facilitates. The potential of the stage is its emptiness. If you're going to stage a play and you put some props or backdrops, the potential of the stage is diminished because it's directed in one way. So we know this about ourselves. Say one evening a friend phones you and says, oh, let's have it. I'm not thinking about the virus. And the friend says, come and have a drink. Maybe you haven't seen this friend for a while and you like them, but you had a long day at work and you're tired. Your space of potential is already filled by your tiredness and you have a meeting in the morning. So you're not really available, even if you go to meet your friend. But when you feel relaxed and at ease, it's much easier to allow this invitation to mobilize you into activity. So in the same way, when our mind is full of patterns of thoughts, feelings, memories, our capacity to access our potential is diminished. We are preoccupied. And in our busy modern world, we are usually preoccupied. There are so many things we have to do. So to bring this back to the meditation, if when thoughts and feelings and memories are arising, our sense of presence gets caught up in a reactivity with them, then we become, days and months and years can go by without us having much sense of the spaciousness of our mind. So this initial instruction from Garab Dorji about our mind, he's saying, open to your mind as it is. Don't be distracted by the comings and goings of these transient experiences. So if I have my pen, a specific object, and I take hold of my pen, the specificity of the pen brings a particular shaping to my grasp. And there is a sense of some power or skill in having this pen. But my hand is now imprisoned by the pen. It looks as if my hand is imprisoning the pen. I've got hold of the pen, but actually, what can I do with my hand? I'm trapped by the pen. The potential or the freedom of all the things I can do with my hand are lost when it goes into grasping on the pen. So when we spend all our days involved in important activities and we formulate our potential into shapes that can take hold of the world, we are also diminishing ourselves. Oh. So if I release myself from the job of maintaining the familiar structures of my world, then the relaxing of this attachment brings me into contact with the great scope of my potential. Because there are two basic aspects of how it is, or the truth, or our mind, which are set forth in Dzogchen. The first is primordial purity, or the intrinsic purity of the mind itself. That is to say, when you look for the mind, you can't find something. Oh, you can find something, you find thoughts, feelings, memories, and so on, but you can't find the mind itself as something. To continue with the symbol that I was looking at before, the mirror, you can't find the mirror itself. The mirror doesn't show itself, it shows reflections. You could say that the reflections are the expression of the mirror, but the naked mirror itself you can't find. Similarly with our mind, and the mind reveals itself as the flow of this transient, immediate experience which comes and goes. They are the mind, because this is how I am, but it's already going. It's not the eternal truth of who I am. There is no such eternal truth as substance. There is no substantial, essential self. I am the patterning of the flow of the potential of the open, empty mind. Now, in terms of the purity of this source or base or ground, no matter what arises, the freshness and purity of the mind itself is not touched. If a horrible image is put in front of the mirror, it shows it's that reflection. Then you take that object away and you replace it with something beautiful. Immediately the beautiful image is reflected. You don't have to get some soap and wash the mirror before it's able to show the beautiful image. So in the same way, if we stay present, our mind fills and empties, fills and empties. Now, if you drive a car and you look in the wing mirror, you see thousands and thousands of reflections. This doesn't wear out the mirror. The tires on the car will wear out, but the mirror doesn't wear out. The mirror is being filled and emptied, but no problem. In the same way with our mind, all kinds of experiences are coming or going. This is called the inseparability of the primordial purity, which is the open, empty base of the mind, and instant presence, which is the immediate arising of each moment of experience. The richness of the arising of the range of what is shown by the mind is not something other than the spacious, open potential of the mind. And this is the heart of the Dzogchen practice, to become present moment by moment in the spontaneous unfolding of the field of whatever is arising. So this is how it is, how it has been from the very beginning. But we don't see this. What is hiding this from us? Our own activity in constructing patterns of interpretation. So, as an example, say you're sitting in meditation and a memory arises of a difficult time in your life. Immediately after, a negative feeling arises. And there is a strong pull to start thinking about what happened and to be upset. The thought, the immediate memory of that event in the past has already vanished from your mind. It actually leaves no trace. But the constellation of my subjectivity, my individual ego self, goes into a vibration of concern. I don't like this. Why is this happening? Oh God, that was terrible. So it's like a ball bouncing between two walls. Boom, 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 boom. My feeling tone is feeding energy into this thought, which is then seemingly catching me more. Then I can't stop thinking about the past. This is like saying, I can't stop thinking about Mickey Mouse. Where is Mickey Mouse? You can't find him anywhere. People will sell you pictures of Mickey Mouse or books about Mickey Mouse, but Mickey Mouse himself, unavailable. So you can think about your past. Where is your past? Can you see your past? Can you touch your past? The past is gone. What you are thinking about when you think about the past is you're thinking about an image in the present, which you are calling the past. Now, if you are able and willing to call the past as it presents in the present, the true past, and it feels, and you convince yourself that you can time travel and go in your little spaceship into the past, then you, as an intelligent person, are able to make yourself very stupid because you believe in something which is manifestly false. Might think, oh, in the summertime, when this virus problem is over, I'm going to go to the beach. There's a little place in Greece where I love to go. There's a taverna there. But maybe with the virus, the taverna has gone bankrupt. And just before you are about to go on holiday, a new strain of the virus arrives. So where is your future? Future doesn't exist. Past doesn't exist. What is here? Here is immediate, direct. But I'm not very interested in this because I like to think about my life. I think about my friends, about my job, about my boss. And in that way, in a maybe quite an interesting way, I fill myself with these cloud-like thoughts. And then, due to my own activity, the open, unborn spaciousness of the mind is hidden by the content of the mind. Just as when you look in the mirror and you see your face, it's probably unusual for you to bow to the mirror and say, beautiful mirror, I am so grateful for your generosity in giving me this chance to see my face. We take the mirror for granted. We see our face, that's all. Without the mirror, I wouldn't see my face. But because of my fixation on my face, it is as if the mirror becomes invisible. So that's the same with our mind. We fixate on our feelings, memories, thoughts, and when they arrive, they just seem to be here. Where do they come from? They come from me, my thoughts, my memory. This is not very complicated. Do you not have feelings? Do you not have thoughts? Yes, they are your thoughts. But why am I thinking this? Why am I feeling this? I don't know. But I'm not telling you that. Shh, because otherwise you think I'm crazy. Of course I am thinking my thoughts. Who else is thinking my thoughts? This is starting to sound a little psychotic. Maybe I'm thinking your thoughts, or you're thinking thoughts into me so that I'm thinking what you think I should be thinking. It's not that complicated. The thoughts and feelings arise and pass. They arise like a great forest. The more you plunge into the forest, the less you see. So that's why when we meditate, we sit quietly, we relax in the out breath, and we allow the trees to thin away so that there is a clearing. My thoughts do not tell me the truth about me. My thoughts tell me about the participation in the world of this patterning of energy I call I, me, myself. So if I look at a car, I interpret that is a car, it's a red car, a Volkswagen, and so on. If I look at this hand, if I think, oh, it's my hand, I'm getting old, look at the skin. Thoughts are the patterning of the unfolding of the quality of our experience. Some people have a tendency to depression, others to anxiety, others to being very driven and obsessional. You can say, oh, he is very anxious. Now, we may see something in the face which we can give a accurate description to. That is an anxious face, because that shows itself. But if we say he is anxious, who is the he? Then we say, oh, that's, I don't know, John. John is anxious, but John is a name. Lots of people are called John. So just saying John doesn't define anything very much. Who is it who is anxious? A pattern of energy is thinking and feeling and sensing, giving rise to this tight, anxious look in the face. But due to causes and conditions, that person can also laugh. And if you film them when they were sleeping, the face doesn't look so anxious. The anxiety is a manifestation of a particular formation arising due to causes and circumstances. To say they are anxious is simply a way of talking about a formation which is coming into being with my talking. Because actually John is sometimes anxious. We don't know exactly when he's going to be very anxious. So anxiety is a relational quality. It manifests according to aspects of the environment, whether John slept well or not, maybe whether it's near the full moon, whether there's a lot of pressure at work, whether John fought with his partner. There are many, many different factors which can increase or decrease the amount of anxiety which is identifiable. So the teaching of Dzogchen is to observe this for ourselves. I cannot define myself. How I am, that is to say, how I am manifesting in this moment, depends on circumstances. When we come to the end in 10 minutes or so, and I switch off the computer, I will not continue to sit here and talk to a blank screen. But perhaps this is my essential self. All night long, I'll be talking to the blank screen because I am me, I am the talker. But I'm only the talker according to circumstances. The talking aspect of me is not an inner essence, it is a pattern of communication. So you can examine this for yourself. There is no quality that you have which is an absolute defining quality. You are a multitude of modalities of expression. This is the basis of our compassion, that we can manifest in different ways with different people. You can talk to a dog in a way you can't talk to a cat. Cats like to come and connect with you. They don't like you to jump onto them. It's the same if you're talking to a very old person, your tone of voice is different from if you're talking to a 3-year-old child. Each of us is an ungraspable, unlimited potential of relatedness. But this is hidden from us when we grasp at ourselves as if we had a secure defining essence. When we spend all our time patterning and repatterning the content of our mind, the content of our room, the content of our world, then it's as if I am a thing in a world of things. And we always find there are some things we want to get rid of and some things we want to get more of. And this can keep us very busy till we die. But the function of meditation is to ease ourselves out of that very busy, dualistic subject-object movement, so that by releasing our involvement and relaxing our arousal and our intentionality, we find that we can be more open and receptive. And the more we do this, we find that in fact we are open like the sky, empty and infinite. This might sound very kind of vacant and like a kind of lost person, but paradoxically, the more we relax and open and don't try, the more bright our mind becomes. And instead of effortful thinking, which is a struggle to work out problems, we find instead that we are part of an intuitive spontaneity. And that without trying, we find that we can speak and connect and move with many different situations. And this is the intrinsic light or clarity of non-dual awareness. And the more we do the practice, the more this is revealed to us. The practice is not creating this kind of clarity. Rather, the relaxation is to release us from the preoccupation of trying to hold on to the content of the moment, so that the bright clarity of the moment can shine through. Oh, now it's 1:30, so we have come to the end. So thank you very much to Tamás for translating, and thank you for the Shambala organization and Tibor for this invitation. I hope that what I've been saying is of some interest to you, and perhaps we meet again. So thank you.
Thank you very much for the teaching, James Lowe, and I hope we will meet again as soon as.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much, James.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay, bye for now.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Köszi, Tamás.